happens when a noblewoman loses everything to betrayal, when justice is denied and grief turns into fire. This is the story of Jeanne de Clisson, known as the Lioness of Brittany, a woman who transformed her pain into one of the most fearsome campaigns of vengeance in medieval history. A mother, a widow, and a pirate who struck fear into the heart of France. Stay with me, because this is not just a story of revenge. It's about betrayal, courage, and the fury of a woman who refused to be silenced. Jeanne-Louise de Belleville was born around 1300 into a wealthy noble family in Brittany, a region caught between the tug-of-war of England and France. She grew up in privilege, surrounded by castles, fine clothing, and the influence of politics. Like most noble women of her time, her role was expected to be simple: marry well, bear children, and maintain alliances. And marry well she did. Her second marriage was to Olivier de Clisson IV, a powerful nobleman and military commander. Together they built a family, raising children while Olivier fought loyally for France in the early stages of the 100 Years' War. To Jeanne, her husband wasn't just a lord, he was her partner, her protector, the father of her children. But in 1343, betrayal would rip everything apart. The backdrop was the ongoing conflict between France and England. Olivier de Clisson had fought bravely in the French cause, but politics in the royal court were treacherous. Whispers accused him of disloyalty, even of secretly favoring England. King Philip VI of France ordered Olivier arrested. Without fair trial, without true evidence, he was condemned. In Paris in the summer of 1343, Olivier de Clisson was executed by beheading. His body was displayed in a public square, a message from the king. For Jeanne, this was more than the death of her husband. It was a deliberate insult. The nobility expected her to accept it quietly, as widows were meant to do. But Jeanne de Clisson did not weep in silence. She swore vengeance. Jeanne sold nearly all of her lands and possessions. With this fortune, she raised her own private navy, 3 massive warships. These weren't ordinary vessels. She painted their hulls black as night, and above the masts, she raised blood-red sails that screamed terror across the English Channel. Her fleet soon earned its infamous name, the Black Fleet. And Jeanne, once a noblewoman of the French court, became its commander. Imagine the shock of sailors when they realized it was not some ruthless admiral, but a grieving widow leading them into battle. From 1343 onward, Jeanne de Clisson hunted down French ships with ruthless efficiency. She targeted supply vessels, merchant fleets, and especially ships carrying French nobles. Her vengeance was clear. Every nobleman she captured, every knight, every court official, was executed. Common sailors, however, were usually spared. She made her mission about justice, or at least what she believed was justice. Her fury was so relentless that French sailors began to tell stories, whispers of a ghostly fleet with black hulls and blood sails, commanded by a woman who struck like death itself. The Channel became haunted waters. In medieval Europe, women were rarely warriors, and certainly never pirates commanding fleets. Jeanne shattered every expectation of her time. To the French, she was a criminal, a traitor, a menace. To the English, who were locked in war with France, she was a useful ally. The English crown allowed her to dock her fleet in their ports, resupply, and continue her raids. But even England feared her uncontrollable rage. Jeanne was not fighting for kings or crowns. She fought for vengeance. Her legend spread across Europe. Nobles spoke her name with dread. Imagine being a French commander at sea, hearing a lookout cry, "Black sails on the horizon!" You would know immediately what that meant. Jeanne de Clisson was coming. Witnesses described her as merciless. Some stories even claim that she personally wielded a sword during executions, ensuring the nobles died by her own hand. For over a decade, she ruled the waters of the English Channel. No French noble at sea could sleep easy, knowing Jeanne might appear. But vengeance cannot burn forever. After years of piracy, her fury began to fade. She had exacted her revenge. Many of those who betrayed her husband had perished. Eventually, Jeanne remarried, this time to an English knight named Walter Bentley. She lived her last years quietly in England, far from the seas she once terrorized. She died in 1359, leaving behind not just a family, but a legacy of fear and awe. So who was Jeanne de Clisson? A grieving widow, a ruthless murderer, a hero of vengeance? History remembers her as the Lioness of Brittany, the woman who defied kings, broke laws, and raised her own fleet to strike back against betrayal. She reminds us that even in the rigid world of the Middle Ages, when women were supposed to remain silent and submissive, one woman used the tools of war to carve her name into history. Her sails may be gone, her ships long vanished into the waves, but the legend of Jeanne de Clisson, the pirate queen of revenge, still sails on.